Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat. In this session, we would look at attestation engagement, and specifically, we're going to distinguish the AICPA attestation standard from the auditing standard. Now, auditing is a form of attestation, but basically, we have to distinguish auditing from other attestation. This is what we're going to try to do. So this is basically part of the assurance service module. We looked at reviews, we looked at compilation, we looked at reviews of public public companies' quarterly report, and now we're going to be looking at attestation. Again, we're going to go back and look at assurance, define assurance first, and see how assurance and attestation fits together. What is an assurance? An assurance is a service when a professional, such as a CPA, is engaged to give an opinion about the financial statements so decision makers can make better decisions. So basically, you are improving the quality of the information. So what is assurance? Basically, improve the quality of information. Now, what we do as CPA, audit is an example of assurance services. So what is an audit? Well, company makes assertions, not one assertion, many assertions about occurrence, completeness, accuracy, valuation, so on and so forth. They make assertions about their financial statements. We as auditors, we attest to those assertions. What is a test? We're going to see what an attest is. I'm going to define what basically a test is: to verify, bear witness. We attest to those assertions. That's our job. Okay, that's part of the assurance service. And what we do is we issue an opinion. So basically, auditing is a form of attestation. So what is attestation, to be more specific as a term? Because it's like, what is attestation? To attest to something is to bear witness, confirm, authenticate, validate, verify, confirm. This is what attestation is. We are attesting to the financial statements. This is what we do. Well, because CPAs do this, they've been asked lately to do a variety of audit-like services. So now, rather than only attesting to the historical financial statement, which is the audit, they want us to do other services known as attest services. Attest services. So we don't only audit financial statement. We may want to make sure that the company is adhering to their loan agreement. So an example of an attest service is when a bank requests a CPA to report in writing whether an audit client has adhered to all the requirements in the loan agreement. So basically, the bank hires us and he'll say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me if one of my clients, a company that I lend money to, is complying with the loan agreement. So that's what they want us to do. That's an attest service. We're going to attest to that and issue a report. Yes, they are, or no, they're not, based on the loan agreement. So in an attestation engagement, the CPA report on the reliability of the information or the assertion made by another party. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to find out if what they are stating is correct. Or it could be maybe a car company, they're saying we have the safest car on the market. Well, usually CPA firms don't get involved in this, but let's assume a CPA firm is hired to determine if that's the case or not. Okay, another attestation service is some companies, they say their website is the most secure or the most reliable. So what we do, they hire us as auditors and we'll try to examine their website, their reliability, their security, their integrity, the integrity of their transactions, so on and so forth, to determine if that claim is not accurate, if we agree with it or don't agree with it. So this is basically what an attestation is. For example, do they have online privacy practices? What about their system availability? What about their servers reliance? Okay, now, what are the primary categories of attestation services? Auditing historical financial statement. This is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing for the past, I don't know how long you've been watching this course. So this is the most traditional attestation services, is the audit. We also attest to the internal control over financial reporting. As CPAs, we do this. As CPAs, we do this as well. We also learn about reviews of historical financial statement. This is a form of attestation. Okay, and this is CPA do this. And this one is other attestation that may be applied to a broad range of subject. So the way I want you to look at this is this. What we're trying to say is this. The AICPA wants to kind of separate. They want you to know that, let me have maybe a better color here. So what does the AICPA wants you to distinguish is attestation of audit and non-audit non-audit. So basically, they're both attestation, but keep them separate. Have different standard for those two. Okay, so the AICPA has issued 11 attestation standards that are stated in sufficient general term to enable CPA to apply them to any attestation engagement other than auditing. Those are similar to the 10 GAS, Generally Accepted Accounting Standard. Okay, so basically they want us to differentiate when we do attestation service. So think of attestation. So this is attestation. Auditing is one thing. It's a form of attestation. And we have other attestation. Okay, other than auditing. If this makes sense. Okay, so auditing is a form of attestation, but the other attestation services should be treated separately. To provide additional guidance, the Auditing Standard Board of the AICPA has issued statement on standard attestation engagement, or only known as attestation standard. So we're going to look over those general standard real quick. Then we're going to look at more specific information. They have a general standard. This is generally accepted auditing accepted attestation. Notice this is generally accepted attestation. Okay, now we also have generally accepted auditing standard. They're both GAS, but this is attestation and this GAS is auditing. And that's what we're trying to do, differentiate between the two. They're very similar, but we have to differentiate between them. So the general standard is when you do attestation, the practitioner, CPA firm, must have adequate technical training and proficiency in performing the attestation. Sure you should have, otherwise you could not. The practitioner must have adequate knowledge on the subject matter. Whatever the subject matter could be, anything in an attestation, so you should have knowledge about it. The practitioner must have reason to believe that the subject matter is capable of evaluation against criteria that are suitable and available to users. Do you have a criteria to compare your work to? Okay, otherwise, what are you comparing your work to? Okay. The practitioner must maintain independence and mental attitude in all matters related to the engagement. Again, you have to be independent because you are issuing a report, and that report could be widely distributed. The practitioner must exercise due professional care in planning and performance, the engagement, and the preparation of the report. Very similar to the audit, but you're not dealing with financial statements. You could be dealing with the Miss America ballot contest. Okay, so the field work is a little bit different. Standard for the field work: the practitioner must adequately plan the work and must properly supervise any assistant. They must obtain sufficient evidence to provide a reasonable basis for the conclusion. Again, very similar to the traditional audit. Those are general standard, but those are for attestation standard, not auditing standard. And standard of reporting, we're going to talk about reporting later on. So this is what we are looking at. So now what we need to know is this: the auditing standard decide not to attempt to define potential boundaries of attestation engagement. So they don't tell you what's attestation and what's not. They don't try to define it. Why? Because always new services are out there for CPA firms to grab. Therefore, they want it's like free for all. Okay, so they don't want you to say this is what attestation services and others are not. So they don't really define it. Okay, so the services could range from Miss America ballot contest to engagement to see if you are compliant with environmental protection laws. So it could be anything. That's what we're trying to say. So an attestation could be anything. Well, the level but they define the level of attestation. Attestation standard define 3 levels of service. So when someone engages you, you have to know, is this an examination that you're doing? Is this a review? Or is it an agreed upon procedures? Those you have to know. Okay? Those you have to know. What is the examination versus review versus agreed upon procedures? An examination here, it results in a positive conclusion expressed in a form of an opinion. Here you are expressing an opinion. You are expressing an opinion that, for example, they are in compliance with whatever the criteria is. So you have to express an opinion, and the opinion has to be positive. Okay? The CPA makes a direct statement about whether the presentation of the assertion taken as a whole conform with the applicable criteria. Basically, as I just said here, you have to say if they are in compliance. The report on an examination is unrestricted as to the distribution by the client after it's issued. Now you have to be careful. You are issuing this report, and your customer, whoever hired you to issue this report, have the right, because it's an examination, to distribute that report to anyone and everyone. So be careful what you put down in that report and what you say. Okay, this means that the client can distribute the information widely, including to prospective investors, for sales and marketing purposes. And we're going to look at an example that's going to show an examination. So this is an example. We have examined the accompanying statement of greenhouse gas emission of the United Parcel Service, the company, which is the client, for the year. Okay, our responsibility is to express an opinion based on our examination. All right. Our examination was conducted in accordance with the attestation standard established by the AICPA, of course, and accordingly included obtaining an understanding of the nature of the company's greenhouse gas emission and its internal control over greenhouse gas emission information. So this is our job, is to determine if they are complying with this. Are they complying with the greenhouse gas emission? So do you have to know something about greenhouse gas emission? Of course you do, otherwise you cannot perform such an attest engagement. So we're going to examine on a test basis evidence supporting the company's statements of GHG emission and performance, such as other procedures as we consider necessary in the circumstances. We believe that our examination provides reasonable assurance for our opinion. So this is basically what we are doing. And here there's, as described in note 1, which we don't have note 1, environmental and energy use data are subject to a measurement uncertainties resulting from limitation inherent to the nature and the method used for determining such data. So we're saying here there could be some mistakes due to the nature of the data. Okay, it's inherently not reliable. Okay, in our opinion, the statement of GHG emission of the company for the year ended blah 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 is presented in all material respect and conformity. Here's the standard, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol Corporate Accounting and Reporting Standard. I have no clue what this is, but this is the criteria. And the Corporate Value Chain Accounting and Reporting Standard, published by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development and World Resource Institute. I have no clue what it is, but this is the criteria that they're using. So this is an example of an attestation engagement where the level of assurance is an examination. This is basically the highest level of attestation, which is they're positively saying they are in compliance according to these criteria. Okay, this is basically an examination. The next thing we're going to look at is when the attestation is basically a review. The level is a review. We provide here a moderate level of assurance, which is less than the examination, that's expressed as negative assurance conclusion. Basically, what is negative assurance? Basically, we are not aware of any issues. Okay, we don't say they are in compliance. We're not aware that they're not in compliance. So the CPA report state whether any information came to the CPA attention as to indicate that the assertion are not presented. So we did the testing. We don't see anything that tell us otherwise. Okay, we're not saying that they're in compliance, but we cannot say that they're not in compliance. Okay, with the applicable criteria, whatever that criteria is. A review report is also unrestricted. It means it could be distributed to anyone. Therefore, the auditor will have to be very careful of what they say. Now, review engagement are prohibited for most services where specified attestation services has been issued. So you cannot conduct a review attestation services if there's specified attestation standard. And we're going to see this later on when we have prospective financial standard. They have specific attestation standard. Therefore, you cannot do a review. That's basically what we're saying here. The third type of attestation standard, the third level, is agreed upon procedures. And as the word agreed upon procedure state, it's agreed upon between two parties, the CPA firm and someone else, the CPA and the customer. And whatever they agreed on, those are the procedures. Now, the degree of assurance varied with the specific procedures agreed to and performed. So here, what are you doing? It all depends on what we agreed on. And hopefully, not hopefully, we're going to put this in writing. Okay? Accordingly, such reports are limited in their distribution. Of course, if I agreed with you on certain procedures, this is only applies to you and me, you and me, to nobody else. Okay? To the parties who are involved. Such reports are limited in their distribution to only the involved party who know the procedures the CPA will perform and the level of assurance resulting from them. So I'm giving you this assurance to you specifically. You cannot distribute this information to the outside world and claim it, it's for everyone. Okay. The report should include a statement of what procedures management and the CPA agreed to and to what the CPA found in performing the procedures. Well, we have to just basically say, what did we do, what did we agree upon, and what did we find? But again, the report is limited as to the distribution. You cannot give it to everyone. And here's basically a summary in an examination. You collect a lot of evidence. The level of assurance is high. You provide a positive conclusion, basically if they are complying or not, and the distribution in general. In a review, the amount of evidence is significant but not extensive, less evidence. The assurance level is moderate, less than high. The conclusion is negative. We're not aware of any issues, and the distribution is general. And the agreed upon procedures, the amount of evidence, well, it all depends on what we agreed to do with you. The level of assurance, it all depends on what we agreed to complete for you. And form of conclusion, finding, what did we find? And the distribution is limited because we agreed upon this on a one-to-one basis. In the next session, we would look at report on internal control at service organization, or SOC reports. So if you have any questions, any comments, by all means email me or see me in class. And if you're studying for your CPA exam, these topics are covered here and there. Make sure you are familiar with them. Study hard. It's worth it.